Hi everyone! Today I'll be sharing with you an example of how teachers can integrate art into various subjects. This example isn't just meant for art teachers, but for teachers of all sorts of different subjects. More specifically, this project is a practice-oriented project that integrates art and technology in the context of global education. If you think about it, people often talk about the importance of a global education. But there aren't a lot of examples that teachers can readily adopt in their classrooms. So I hope this project can get you thinking about how you might be able to do something like this yourself. This project is called the Making of Piece of Paper project. It was developed by 3 professors at Lesley University as an example of a global education project. We were trying to think of a project that could help classrooms in different places and cultures connect, and this is what we came up with. Each of these projects uses handmade paper and addresses the topic of peace. But more importantly, the rest of the activities were designed to fit the particular interests and needs of each of the schools and countries that the project was conducted in. This project debuted in June 2011 at an elementary school in South Korea and a middle school in Rwanda. We're also starting this project in the US now. In order to connect the classrooms around the world, we used blogs, YouTube, Skype, and VoiceThread software in these projects. In this presentation, I'll mainly discuss the project that was conducted in Korea, and then talk briefly about the project in Rwanda. In Korea, the project was conducted with the 6th graders of the Daeja Elementary School in Gwangju District. Before the project launch, we identified a teacher who was interested in participating in an international project. We then worked with him and his 6th grade class to carry out this project. We met 5 times, with each meeting lasting about 3 hours. Through the activities, we discussed the concept of peace, crafted a vision for peace, and expressed a shared hope for peace. This project had 2 goals. First, to educate children about peace and cooperation. Second, to develop educational ways to help children understand the concept of peace. Both of these statements from UNESCO and the quotes from Gandhi suggest that it is important for children to begin thinking about peace from an early age. In the next part of the presentation, I'd like to share with you each step of this project. This project, like I mentioned, took a constructivist approach. This means that one activity led into the next. Each step was directly influenced by the students' ideas and their reactions to the previous step. At the end, there were 5 main steps: writing a found poem, thinking about, discussing, and pantomiming peace, creating handmade paper, creating a papier-mâché globe, and making a peaceful place. Here I'll walk you through each step. The first step was writing a found poem. Students took 15 minutes to walk around the school grounds, and they were told to write down words that they came across, anything that was interesting to them for any reason. At this point, students didn't know why they were collecting these words. In other words, they didn't know anything about the project yet. When the students returned after 15 minutes, they wrote a poem on the topic of peace. The challenge was that they were only allowed to use the words that they had collected and then some prepositions. At first, many students found this to be very difficult because they could only use certain words. But soon they became very creative and wrote very interesting poems. This helped students actively think about the word peace in many creative ways. Step 2 was thinking about, discussing, and pantomiming peace. In this step, we had a discussion around 2 questions. First, how do you think about peace? And second, what does peace look like to you? In addition to this discussion, students expressed the concept of peace through pantomime. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, pantomiming is a theatrical technique that uses only gestures and no words to express emotions and actions. During this discussion in pantomiming, students mainly focused on big national and international issues, like the unification of the Korean Peninsula and world peace. All of these issues were very broad and abstract issues, not the kind of peace between friends, neighbors, or other people close by. Step 3 was creating handmade paper. For this step, we created handmade paper from junk mail to use in later activities. This was a natural next step because the students in the classroom had also been talking about environmental stewardship. So over the course of a week, these students made a lot of handmade paper. The students were pretty excited that they could make paper from things from their homes. Now, I'll briefly show you how we made this handmade paper. First, you rip some junk mail into small pieces and put everything in a blender. Then, you add 2 cups of water and run the blender. First, you want to start slowly, and then you can speed it up to make it faster. Then, you'll fill the paper-making tool like this. Next, place the screen on this top part of the tool, and then flip it upside down. After that, you'll use a towel to dry the paper. Once it stops dripping, you can take out the top part of the paper-making tool. At this point, you can also add decorations like pressed leaves or other things to the paper. And finally, now it's time to air dry the paper. Here are some examples of the final product. After making the handmade paper, students brainstormed what they could make with this paper to explore the topic of peace. Eventually, the students agreed on 2 projects: to create papier-mâché globes and to construct a 3D model of a peaceful town. Now, step 4 was creating a papier-mâché globe. The students decided to try to express ideas from their previous discussion on peace through papier-mâché globes. So first, they had to create papier-mâché globes. To get a spherical shape, they glued several layers of old newspaper around old beach balls. Here's one example. Then, the globes were left to dry in the sun. After they dried, students removed the beach ball from the inside. So here, there's just a papier-mâché globe with a spherical shape. Next, students added a layer of handmade paper from the previous activity. Then, they worked in teams of 2 to create an abstract watercolor painting on each of the globes. Each team agreed on a specific theme on the topic of peace. Here's an example of a sketch of an idea for one team. In the end, students used themes like a beautiful earth, a suffering earth, a destroyed earth, a hopeful earth, and a peaceful earth. Now here are some quotes from the students as they worked together on their abstract paintings. The theme here was a suffering earth. They said, "Let's show how islands will start to disappear as sea levels keep rising more and more. Jeju Island and Tsushima Island will probably disappear. Oh, but maybe there will also be some volcanic eruption that makes a new island too." This one was a peaceful earth. They said, "Let's use blue color to show how people are living together peacefully. And how about a tan color to express being considerate? And maybe purple for showing happiness and joy?" This one is a destroyed earth. The students say, like in the movie Tomorrow, when global warming gets really bad, we'll probably have a little ice age where the Earth will gradually start to freeze. So let's try to convey a little ice age. This next one is the same destroyed Earth. They said, "We drew an Earth that's angry because the environment is being destroyed. The red island in the middle is a trash island, and we thought of it as the Earth's tears of blood." And here is a hopeful Earth. Do you want to draw about how we can show the Earth that we're cheering for it? Yeah, let's paint a picture of cheering it on. This next one is a beautiful Earth. They said, "Since the Earth's owner is nature and not humans, let's fill it up with flowers and trees. It'll be like blowing life into the paper globe." Lastly, this one is a delicate Earth. Each of the paintings reflected elements of the class discussion on peace. Each team presented their globe and painting, which was an opportunity for students to think more about each other's perceptions of peace. The last step of this project was making a peaceful place. In this activity, students used some more of the handmade paper to create a 3D model of their idea of a peaceful town. Here you see farms, villages, skyscrapers, shops, paved roads, and more. And here is another view. Like I mentioned earlier, this project had a constructivist approach. So, all of the activities were based on how the student discussions went. This is unlike most school activities, which are pre-planned ahead of time. Students found this to be very exciting and motivating. After the whole project, students were asked to reflect on their learning. One student said that she used to think of peace as a very large and difficult task that only governments could fulfill. But now, she thinks that peace can come from somewhere very local. Another student said she's now more interested in what's happening in other parts of the world. She's interested in seeing how peace exists or doesn't exist elsewhere. This student also drew a link between environmental problems and peace. Some students like this one also began to think about peace in relation to beauty. To conclude, this project is one example of how teachers and other educators can explore the topic of peace with students. And since the summer of 2011, this Making a Piece of Paper project has started to develop into a larger project beyond just one classroom in one country. It's become a project for students from different countries to participate in. 6th and 7th graders from all over the world can create handmade paper and use this as a medium to discuss peace. Although both projects involved handmade paper making as a common thread, the rest of the activities were designed to fit the particular interests and needs of each of the schools and countries. One other example, like I mentioned, is a project that was conducted in Rwanda. Here are also a few photos from the project in Rwanda. Although both projects involved handmade papermaking as a tool, the other activities were different due to the constructivist approach. Through a website, instructors from the project in Korea and the project in Rwanda created a shared space. Here, students from both countries could view each other's works. In addition, we did a physical exchange of sheets of handmade paper between the two schools. And as this project gets bigger, we're planning to have more of these kinds of physical exchanges with other classrooms in other countries as well. If you're interested, you and your students can also be a part of this project. The methods discussed here are easy to replicate and have minimal costs. We made all of these screens using leftover window screens and tape. If you would like to conduct this project with your own students, please feel free to send me an email. Thank you very much.